What if I told you that reality isn't as solid as we think it is? That beneath the surface of our everyday lives, there are cracks, moments when the simulation seems to stutter, skip, or break altogether. Tonight, we dive into the bizarre. These are not just strange coincidences or figments of imagination. These are real people's stories, first-hand accounts of moments that defy logic. Welcome to Seeing the Impossible, Disturbing Glitch in the Matrix Phenomenon. Let's begin. Story 1. The Man Who Vanished Twice. Our first story takes us to the bustling city of Chicago, where a woman named Jenna experienced something that still haunts her years later. It was a typical winter evening, the kind where the city feels a bit more gray than usual, cold wind blowing between buildings, commuters bundled in coats and scarves, waiting silently at their usual train platforms. Jenna stood at her regular spot on the Red Line, sipping a lukewarm coffee and scrolling through her phone. Everything was ordinary. That is, until she noticed him. An older man, sitting across the tracks on the opposite bench. He was unusually still, not sleeping, not looking around, just still. He wore a long gray overcoat, slightly worn at the edges. A brown fedora, tilted slightly forward, obscured part of his face. And in his hands, he held an open newspaper, not a phone, not a Kindle, a full-sized newspaper, folded neatly, perfectly aligned. Jenna couldn't say why he caught her attention. Maybe it was the old-fashioned look. Maybe it was how out of place he felt. But something about him felt off, like he didn't belong there. Not in that moment. She stared for a few seconds, trying to place what was bothering her. And then, it happened. The train roared into the station. The wind from its arrival whipped her hair across her face. She blinked. Just once. And when she looked back, the man was gone. Not walking away. Not packing up. No sound of footsteps. Gone. The bench was completely empty. Not even the newspaper remained. She turned her head in every direction, eyes darting through the crowd. Nothing. No one even remotely resembling him. It was as if he had never been there at all. Jenna brushed it off. Maybe he stood up while she blinked. Maybe he moved faster than she realized. But still, something didn't sit right. Trying to shake it off, she boarded her train, sat down by the window, and took out her book. But her mind kept returning to that man, the stillness, the newspaper, the eerie familiarity she couldn't explain. 3 stops later, the train slowed. The doors hissed open. Jenna casually looked out the window and froze. There he was, sitting on a bench at that station. Same gray overcoat, same brown fedora, same exact newspaper, held at the same angle, same expressionless posture. This was a different part of the city. The train had been moving the entire time. There was no possible way that man could have gotten ahead of her, unless he had flown, teleported, or wasn't human at all. Her stomach dropped. She didn't get off. She didn't move. She just sat there, staring, until the train doors closed and the man slowly disappeared from view behind her. She never saw him again after that day. But sometimes, she swears she catches glimpses of him in reflections in crowds on subway posters. Just for a second. Same coat, same hat, same stillness. And every time, it makes her wonder, was it a glitch in reality? A double-layered timeline? A non-player character caught in a loop? Or was she simply seeing something not meant to be seen? Story 2. The Frozen Street. Liam was used to strange hours. As a delivery driver in Dublin, he often found himself weaving through narrow residential streets long after the city had gone to sleep. He liked the quiet, the peace. No traffic, no honking horns, just the hum of his engine and the soft shuffle of tires on wet asphalt. It was just after 2:30 a.m. on a drizzly Tuesday night when he turned onto a small, tree-lined street he'd never noticed before. No streetlights, no houses with lights on. The kind of road that makes your skin crawl for no clear reason. And then everything stopped. Literally. The first thing Liam noticed was the dog, a large black lab, standing mid-stride in the middle of the sidewalk, one paw raised in the air, unmoving. Beside the dog, a woman stood frozen. Her arm, holding the leash, hung stiffly in place. Her head was turned slightly, as if she had been looking behind her. But she wasn't blinking, not breathing, not moving. Across the street, a cyclist hovered mid-turn, his front wheel tilted off the ground, his body leaning like he was caught in a tight corner. And stuck there. Liam slammed on the brakes. The van jerked to a stop, but the silence outside was deafening. No wind. No rustling leaves. No city noise in the distance. It was like someone had vacuum-sealed the world. Even the leaves in the air, which should have been fluttering down from the trees, were suspended, like they were hanging from invisible strings, caught in time. Liam blinked, rubbed his eyes, leaned forward. Everything was frozen. His hands tightened around the steering wheel. His heart pounded. This wasn't right. It wasn't normal. It felt manufactured, like a paused video game. Like reality had buffered. He looked around the van, unsure if he should get out or just reverse and drive far, far away. And then, it all snapped back. Instantly, the cyclist rode on as if nothing had happened. The dog barked. The woman pulled her coat tighter against the chill and kept walking. The leaves fell. The sounds returned. Everything resumed like normal, as if it had always been in motion, as if Liam had imagined the whole thing. But he knew he hadn't. His hands were still shaking. His breath was still short. And his van's dashboard clock, he noticed, had jumped ahead by almost half a minute. When he got home later, he did the one thing that might prove he hadn't lost his mind. He checked the dashcam footage. And that's when his blood ran cold. The footage showed the van turning onto the street. Then, a glitch. A jagged frame freeze. Then a skip. And suddenly, the van was already past the block. 20 seconds gone. Missing. No frozen woman. No suspended cyclist. Just silence on tape. To this day, Liam avoids that part of town. He's never found the street again, even when he's tried. It's like it was never there. Like he slipped into a piece of the world that wasn't meant to be accessed. Some call it a glitch. Some say it's evidence of a paused simulation. But Liam knows what he saw. And the scariest part? He doesn't think he was supposed to see it. Story 3. The Looping Customer. Ethan was used to the quiet monotony of the night shift. Working at a small gas station on the outskirts of town, he'd seen all kinds of strange people, drunken travelers, desperate wanderers, insomniacs craving coffee. But nothing prepared him for what happened one night at exactly 2 a.m. The clock had just flipped to that ominous hour when the door chimed softly. In walked a woman. She wore a striking red coat, the kind that stands out in a crowd. Her hair was pulled back tight, her eyes tired but focused. Without saying a word, she moved to the cooler, grabbed a single bottle of water, paid in exact change, and left as quietly as she'd come. Ethan barely gave her a second thought. But 10 minutes later, the bell rang again. And there she was. The same woman, same red coat, same tired eyes, same single bottle of water. Ethan blinked, sure his mind was playing tricks on him. "Hey, did you just?" he began, but the woman didn't meet his gaze. No recognition flickered across her face. She simply paid and walked out again. Curiosity mixed with unease as Ethan pulled up the security footage. He froze. There they were. 2 visits. 2 separate transactions. But something was wrong. Both clips showed the exact same woman. Same movements. Same expressions. The timestamps confirmed it. Only 10 minutes apart. That's when it started. Over the next hour, the woman returned 4 more times. Each visit separated precisely by 10 minutes. Each time, buying the same brand of water. No conversation. No hesitation. Just the silent exchange, and then she disappeared into the night. Ethan's mind raced. Was she stuck in some kind of time loop? Was she repeating the same hour over and over? Or, more terrifyingly, was he witnessing a glitch in the simulation? He tried to talk to her after the 3rd time, but she never looked at him. It was as if she was there, but not there. Like a background character in a game, cycling through the same scripted motions, never aware she was being observed. The final time she came in, Ethan felt a cold shiver run down his spine. She didn't buy anything. She just stood there, looking at him, not blinking. Then she turned and left. And that was the last he ever saw of her. Weeks later, Ethan checked the footage again. That night's tape was corrupted. Segments missing. Timestamps jumping backward and forward unpredictably. Like someone was trying to erase her existence. To this day, Ethan wonders, was she a lost soul trapped in a broken loop? A phantom glitch cycling endlessly? Or maybe, just maybe, she was a reminder that time and reality aren't as fixed as we think. Story 4. The Doppelganger Dinner. It was a quiet Sunday morning when Tara and Michael decided to have breakfast at their favorite local diner, a cozy spot where the coffee was strong and the jukebox played old classics. The sun filtered softly through the windows, casting warm light on the checkered tablecloths and well-worn booze. They were relaxed, chatting about the week ahead, enjoying the simple pleasure of a slow morning. But then, something happened that would shake their reality forever. Tara had just dropped her fork on the floor. She bent down to pick it up, her eyes focused on the shiny utensil reflecting the neon diner signs. When she looked back up, the color drained from her face. Across the room, sitting at a table near the window, were 2 people who looked exactly like them. Not just similar, identical. Same clothes, same hairstyles. The other Tara laughed, the same soft, melodic laugh Tara herself made when she was genuinely amused. The other Michael nodded in agreement, mirroring Michael's habitual lean and subtle smile. Tara's heart hammered in her chest. "Michael, look," she whispered, voice trembling. Michael turned slowly, eyes widening as he saw their doubles sitting there, sharing the exact same breakfast routine, just mirrored. But the moment he blinked, the doppelgangers stood up. They moved with the same casual grace, walked toward the exit, and then vanished into the morning light outside. Tara swore those weren't strangers. They were perfect copies. But why were they there? What did they want? Disturbed, Tara and Michael asked the diner owner if there was any security footage from that morning. They needed answers. When they watched the footage, the strangest thing happened. The camera clearly caught Tara dropping her fork. Then, static. A flicker of corrupted pixels scrambled the screen for a solid 5 seconds, long enough to erase anything important. When the video resumed, the other couple was gone. No sign of the duplicates. No trace on the footage. They had disappeared from reality, like a glitch being erased. Tara and Michael left the diner that day unsettled. Sometimes, she swore she could still hear that other Tara's laugh in her head, like a memory that wasn't hers. What if the world was layered? What if there were copies of us, living parallel lives in overlapping realities? And sometimes, those layers blur. Or worse, sometimes a glitch allows one to slip through. Tara and Michael never found out why their doubles appeared. But one thing was certain. They weren't just hallucinations or coincidences. They were a reminder that the line between real and replica is far thinner than anyone ever imagined. Story 5. The Text from the Future. Our final story is one that sends chills down the spine. It happened to Nina, a college student living a quiet life, juggling classes, assignments, and late-night study sessions at the campus library. One evening, as Nina was buried in her textbooks, the silence was broken by a sudden ping on her phone. A message from her best friend, Amy. The text read, "Hey, are you okay? That car almost hit you." Nina's fingers froze over the keyboard. She glanced out the window of the library, her mind racing. She hadn't even been outside that day. Not once. Confused, she began typing a reply. "What do you mean? I'm in the library." Before she could finish, her phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from a number she didn't recognize. The text was short, but terrifying. "You weren't supposed to survive that." Her breath caught in her throat. The hairs on her arms stood on end. 1,000 questions flooded her mind. Who sent this? How did they know? And most importantly, what was she supposed to survive? Terrified, Nina shoved her books into her backpack and bolted outside. She needed to call Amy. Needed answers. The campus was nearly empty, shadows stretching long under the streetlights. As she stepped onto the street, her phone clutched tightly in her hand. A car came racing around the corner. It swerved wildly, tires screeching against the asphalt. Nina barely had time to react. The car missed her by inches. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drumbeat. She dropped to the sidewalk, trembling. The car disappeared into the night as fast as it had come. Her phone buzzed once more. This time, It was a voicemail from Amy. Panicked, Amy explained she'd seen a car nearly hit Nina just moments ago, while Nina was still in the library. The timeline didn't make sense. Who sent that warning? Was it a glitch in time? A message from the future? Or maybe a protective fragment of the simulation intervening just in time? Nina still keeps that unknown number saved on her phone. But when she tries to call back, it's disconnected. As if whoever, or whatever, sent that message vanished as suddenly as they appeared. Sometimes, when she's alone, Nina wonders if the world around her is stitched together by fragile threads of reality, where messages can slip through cracks in time, warning her of dangers she can't yet see. And she knows one thing for sure. That text saved her life. Story 6. The Ghost Town at Noon. Carlos had driven through that small town in Arizona more times than he could count. It was a dusty little spot, nothing more than a few blocks clustered with storefronts, a gas station, and a diner or two. On this day, he was on his way to visit family, taking his usual route. The sun was high in the sky, the harsh, blazing Arizona noon. The kind of daylight that sharpens every shadow and casts a golden glow on everything it touches. But something was different. As Carlos drove through the town's main street, his eyes scanned for the usual signs of life. But there was none. Every storefront was shuttered tight. No signs of movement. No cars parked. No people walking or chatting on the sidewalks. Not a single soul. He glanced at the clock on his dashboard. 12:37 p.m., broad daylight. Yet the town felt eerily silent, like he'd rolled into the middle of the night, or stepped onto the set of a forgotten movie scene. Carlos's unease grew. He killed the engine and sat still for a moment, listening. Not even a bird chirped. Finally, curiosity pushed him out of the van. He started to walk. The air was heavy and still. His footsteps echoed unnaturally loud against the empty street. He passed the diner, expecting to see a waitress wiping tables or someone sitting at the counter, but the windows were dark and dusty. He tried opening a door. It was locked tight. Knocked once, twice. No answer. He called out. His voice felt swallowed by the thick silence. No echoes bounced back. It was as if the town itself absorbed sound like a vacuum. Carlos's heart raced. Had he stumbled into some kind of time freeze? A moment when the world simply paused. He kept walking deeper into the town, searching for any sign that it was alive. Then, just as he reached the edge of the empty streets, he turned around. Suddenly, the town came alive. Cars rolled past. Music spilled from the open doors of a cafe. A child zipped by on a bicycle, laughing. It was as if he had blinked and the world had switched back on. Carlos rubbed his eyes, wondering if he was dreaming. Had he slipped into an in-between layer of reality? A hidden glitch in the simulation? Or was this town nothing more than an illusion, an empty shell that flickered in and out of existence? He still doesn't know. But every time he drives through, Carlos can't shake the feeling that somewhere beneath the surface, the town is both there and not there. Waiting. Paused. Frozen. Like a secret waiting to be uncovered. Story 7. The Man Who Knew Too Much. This story was shared by a Reddit user named Marinaflux. a memory so strange and unsettling, it's haunted her ever since. One chilly autumn evening, Marina was near her university campus. She noticed a homeless man sitting quietly on a bench, shivering in the cold. Feeling a pang of compassion, she approached him with a sandwich and a warm drink she had packed. They started talking. At first, it was small talk, whether, how long he'd been in the area, the usual. But then, without warning, the man's eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. He leaned in closer, voice dropping to a whisper. "You shouldn't be here yet." Marina frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" she asked. The man's gaze darkened, his expression deadly serious. "You were supposed to die in 2021. The words hit her like a punch. Her mind scrambled. Was he some kind of prophet, a lunatic, or something else entirely? She pressed him for answers. "How do you know that? What do you mean, die?" He shook his head, almost sadly. "They messed up your timeline. You weren't supposed to jump servers." His words made no sense until the unsettling feeling began to settle in her chest. "That's why you feel like you don't belong, like something's off, like you're living in the wrong story." Before Marina could ask more, the man smiled, a strange, knowing smile. Then, without another word, he stood up, folded his thin jacket around himself, and vanished down a nearby alley, like a ghost slipping through walls. Marina never saw him again. But since that night, a creeping unease has settled inside her. A feeling that the world isn't quite right, that her memories are patchy, her sense of place fragmented. She wonders if her life was rewound and altered, if reality shifted beneath her feet without warning. Was she a glitch, an anomaly, or a player who jumped between versions of the simulation, somehow surviving where she wasn't meant to? Marina's story reminds us that sometimes the cracks in reality show us terrifying glimpses of the truth, that we might be living on borrowed time in a world constantly being rewritten. Story 8. The Disappearing Highway Exit. Late one night, Derek and his wife were driving home from a family gathering, exhausted, but in good spirits. The road ahead was familiar. They'd taken this highway dozens of times over the years. The route was practically muscle memory by now. Their usual exit, exit 41, was only a few miles ahead. They even joked about stopping at their go-to diner just past the turnoff for a slice of pie. But when they reached the point where the exit should have been, it wasn't there. No sign. No off-ramp, just an unbroken stretch of blacktop, speeding past in the headlights. At first, they assumed they'd been talking too much and simply missed it. No big deal. They turned around at the next available crossover and headed back. Still, no exit. This time, they paid careful attention. The GPS said they were just seconds away. Mile marker 223. Familiar billboard. Check. Then, nothing. Confused and now growing anxious, they drove that same stretch 4 more times, each time growing more uneasy. The GPS continued to insist, take exit 41. But the map itself offered no route, just a gray, unrendered void where the turnoff should have been. As if the road had been erased. No traffic, no road signs, not even the faded markings that used to be painted on the pavement. Just absence. Derek and his wife sat in silence during their fourth pass. The air inside the car felt heavy, electric, wrong. Then, without warning, on the fifth pass, the exit was there again. The same green sign they always remembered. Exit 41 Pine Hollow / Eastwood Ridge. The familiar right bend. Same blinking yellow light at the end of the ramp. They turned off in stunned silence. It was exactly where it should have been all along. No damage, no construction, no sign anything had ever changed. Later, when they reviewed their car's GPS route history, something made Derek's skin crawl. The tracking showed their car circling through a blank gray patch on the digital map. No road lines, no coordinates, no landmarks. Just static space, like a blind spot in the simulation. To this day, they don't know where they went during that missing hour, or why the exit vanished, only to return. Some believe it was a shared hallucination, stress-induced confusion. Others think they slipped momentarily into a version of reality where the road never existed. But Derek and his wife know what they saw and what they didn't. The exit was gone. Then it was back. And something about that stretch of road still doesn't feel real. Story 9. The Woman Who Spoke from the Grave. In 2018, Alex lost someone who meant the world to him, his grandmother. She was warm, sharp-witted, and perhaps unusually modern for her age. She FaceTimed, used emojis, kept up with news on her iPhone, and texted better than half the people Alex knew his age. She was a bright presence in his life, and when she passed, it left a void nothing could fill. Fast forward 2 years. It's 2020. A quiet night. Alex is home, scrolling through his phone before bed. The light from the screen dimly lighting the room. And then, his phone buzzes. A WhatsApp message. From a number he hadn't seen in years. His grandmother's number. At first, he thought it had to be some mistake, a glitch in his contacts. But when he opened it, the message was clear, deliberate, simple. I miss you. I'm okay. You're doing great. Alex stared at the screen, frozen. His heart raced. He double-checked the number. It was hers, still saved under Nana. Even her old profile picture was there, a soft smile and the same purple sweater she always wore. Hands trembling, he typed back, "Who is this?" 3 dots appeared. Dot. Then, nothing. The dots vanished. The chat went silent. He waited. Minutes passed. Then hours. No reply ever came. The next morning, the message was still there. But when he tapped the number, it was gone. This contact is no longer available on WhatsApp. Confused and disturbed, Alex called the phone provider. The answer sent a chill down his spine. That number was permanently retired after her death. It was never reassigned. It doesn't belong to anyone. No SIM, no forwarding, nothing. He checked with his family. No one had touched her old phone. It had been recycled months after her passing. The account was closed. Her iCloud deactivated. And yet, the message existed. The timestamp was real. It had come through. From her number. With her picture. Alex doesn't claim to understand what happened. Was it a spiritual message? A data fragment breaking through some digital veil? Or something even stranger? Maybe, just maybe, death isn't the end. Maybe it's a firewall, and sometimes, for reasons we can't explain, a few words slip through. Words like, I miss you, I'm okay, you're doing great. Story 10. The Mirror That Lied. Sophie lived alone in a modest apartment on the third floor of a century-old building. It wasn't fancy, but it had character, creaky wooden floors, tall windows, and a long narrow hallway that always felt just a little too quiet. At the end of that hallway stood an old mirror, almost 7 feet tall, with an ornate wooden frame that looked far more expensive than anything else in the apartment. It had been there when she moved in, left behind by the previous tenant. Heavy, dusty, almost impossible to move. Sophie started using it casually, checking her outfits, adjusting her scarf, running fingers through her hair before leaving for work. But it was just a mirror, or so she thought, until one morning. She stood in front of it, coffee in one hand, purse in the other, running late for the train. In a rush, she raised her left hand to fix her collar, but the reflection raised the right. It took her a moment to notice. When she did, her stomach dropped. She stared, blinked, shook her head, and just like that, the mirror corrected itself. The reflection mirrored her perfectly again. I'm tired, she told herself. Lack of sleep, stress. That's all. But it didn't stop. Over the next few weeks, the oddities increased. Sometimes her reflection would lag behind, a heartbeat too slow to smile back or turn its head. Other times, she'd walk away from the mirror, only to glance back and see her reflection still standing, still staring forward. Once, just once, she swore it smiled when she wasn't smiling. It wasn't a malicious smile, just subtle off, like it knew something she didn't. Sophie started avoiding the mirror. She'd angle her gaze downward, shuffle past it quickly. She even covered it once with an old sheet, but every morning, somehow, the sheet would be on the floor. Eventually, she moved out, found a new place, fresher, brighter, with no lingering sense of being watched. But curiosity lingered. Months later, while picking up a package she'd accidentally sent to her old address, she ran into the new tenant, a young guy named Jared. They chatted briefly, and then she asked casually, "Hey, you didn't happen to keep that big mirror in the hallway, did you?" He paused. His face changed. "Oh, that thing," he said. "Yeah, I covered it. It creeps me out. I swear it watches me, even when I'm not looking." He laughed nervously, trying to pass it off as a joke. But Sophie recognized the look in his eyes. That same sense of unease. Maybe it was an old house playing tricks. Maybe a mirror warped by age and time. Or maybe it was a window, a reflection not of our world, but another. One where things don't always follow the rules. A glitch in the glass. Because sometimes, the most terrifying glitches aren't in the sky, or on the road, or in digital messages. Sometimes they're standing just a few feet away, wearing your face.